Alex in the future. So I should have already taught you all your knife skills and you're watching this after our knife class. But since we weren't able to cut any meat in class today, I decided I'll take a video of me cutting steaks of this large strip loin, which this then becomes New York strip steaks. So the first thing that you'll need is my honing steel. Like I taught you guys in class, we're gonna hone our knife, like so. Just so we have a nice sharp blade. And you wanna make sure that your meat is dry, because if it's wet, it's gonna be sliding all over the place on your cutting board, and that's no good. And if you come look over here, we have two kinds of fat. We have the skin side of fat, so this is actually the closest to the actual skin of the animal. Then underside, we have more white leaf fat. And then along with that kind of fat, we have the intermuscular fat, which is the good stuff, which you want in your steak to make it nice and juicy. So as you can see, intermuscular, and then we have the layer of skin fat. So what I want to do first is I want to prep this piece of meat so it's nice and clean before I cut my steaks. So I'm going to take my knife, and like I said, always cutting away from yourself. We're going to get it in a position where we can look at what we're doing from the side, but also get our knife in and work out. So I'm going to lift up some of this fat, and under here we're actually going to find sinew, or the chewy collagen that doesn't break down with heat. So I'm gonna come through and I'm actually gonna just slice off, and I'm exposing that very tough sinew. And I'm gonna just keep doing that. It is okay to cut towards yourself as long as your arms are away and you're cutting very thoughtfully. So there we go, I took off some of this meat, and then I have a better visual of this sinew. So I'm gonna work my knife under here, and I'm just gonna start a cut, working my way to the end, and then I'm gonna lift this piece up so I can get rid of that. And I'm just gonna do that until this underside is clean. We don't wanna, totally eradicate it of fat, but if we think about it, it has all this fat on top. When you're going to eat your steak, you want it to be cooking from that fat and not really worried about any kind of chewiness underneath the steak. So I'm gonna clean this up and I'll get back to you. Okay, so we're back, and now I've gotten rid of a lot of the underside in this corner and just cleared it up a little bit over here. This stuff can all stay. And then I'm gonna flip it over, and then I'm actually going to think about how big I want my steaks. So in this case, I'm doing a technique called reverse sear, which is when you par cook the steak at a very low temperature in the oven, and then you finish it in a pan for only 15-20 seconds per side, which gives you very rare, beautiful interior that's fully cooked, but you also get a very nice crispy sear. So when I'm looking at the meat, what I want to do first is I'm going to mark out before I cut how big and how many steaks I want. So we're feeding, a bunch of adults, and I'm going to be cutting these steaks in front of them. So I think I'm going to aim for larger steaks about here, like 1.5 to 2-inch steaks. Okay, so I'm going to go through and I'm actually going to mark out my areas where I'm going to be making cuts, because in the long run it's going to make your life a little easier instead of guessing every single time. So I'm gonna go here, and I'm gonna just mark a little line here, a little further, mark, a little further, mark, a little further, mark, and mark. So this one is gonna be more for the children that we're cooking for. And then when you're cutting meat, you want long stride motions, because you don't want to be sawing through it. You're going to get a very jagged edge on your steak. When you're cutting steaks, you're going to take your knife and you're going to push through, and I'm going to pull it down like let me give you a good analogy. Kind of like I am starting a lawnmower, okay? So I'm going to pull it down, and I basically went all the way through that steak already. And I'm gonna take my knife out, because right now if I start going in blind, I'm gonna cut the steak really badly. So I'm gonna open it up and I'm gonna see that I have more cut at the base where I dragged my knife. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn it around, and to prevent ugly cutting, I'm gonna just do the same thing on that side and finish her off like that. See, I still got, but there we go. That's a nice thick steak ready to be reverse seared. And I'm gonna do that with the rest of these. And maybe I'll show you something else, who knows? Okay, so now I'm gonna show you guys how to truss, in air quotes, a steak, especially at this size. Like, you don't really wanna do it for a smaller, thinner steak, but when you go over 1.5 inches, it's beneficial to really keep the meat together for 2 reasons. When you go to sear it, it's gonna give you a flat surface so it doesn't curl up and you get a gray spot here, and it's gonna cook evenly. So that's kind of the same thing, but this is how you truss. I will be showing you this in class with chicken, but it's a little different when you do steak. And this also works with any kind of roast that you do. So I'm gonna actually show you, like, if you're doing a roast, for example, pretend this is a giant piece of meat, you can take your butcher's twine and you're gonna put it on your side over here. You don't have to cut it every single time, because the way I'm showing you is that you'll get the exact size of butcher's twine you need every single time. So you're gonna pull your twine towards you, and you're gonna take 2 pieces and you're going to hold it. You're gonna go under with the cut side, over, and you're gonna see it's gonna have a little loop there. You're gonna take that end piece and you're gonna thread it through that loop, and you're gonna get a form of a slip knot. So you're gonna pull it up a little bit, and then you're gonna be able to pull this knot down, tighten it. You're gonna pull it like this, tighten it, and then you can tie it off, and it will automatically like be tight and stay tight. But that's not what I'm gonna be doing for this. This is just an example. So when you do a meat, I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna do it, use that technique on this steak. So I'm gonna cut that off, take my meat, and I'm going to get a good piece right here because we want it to go all the way around the length. And I'm gonna do exactly what I just showed you, but instead of doing it, yeah, you'll see. So I have my loop here, and I'm gonna go over, and I'm going through, and I made my slip knot. You don't want it tight at this point, because when you pull it, it's gonna tighten itself. And I'm gonna just make sure that this is gonna tighten like that. And I'm pulling it tight, and then I'm grabbing this other piece, and I'm gonna just come through, and see it's staying tight because we did that slip knot. And I'm just gonna tie it off like that. And then for presentation purposes, I'm gonna just cut off. So then we have a perfectly, look at it's exactly in the middle, exactly where we want it. Steak. I almost cut my finger. See, knife safety. That's what I'm teaching you guys. This should have been like this, away from danger. Worked. But yeah, okay. Okay, really quickly, I'm gonna show you this lox that I made and how to slice fish that you're cutting thin. So I'm gonna start on the top, and I'm making a long stride like this. And then as I go down, I'm kind of curving my blade and letting it slide down to cut it off the skin. Like so, like that. And this is actually from the fish being mishandled while we received it, because it was being like flopped in a bag, so the muscles actually disconnected from themselves. That is not supposed to be like that.